Hello and welcome to New Filmmakers Los Angeles in partnership with Movie Maker magazine. My name is Danny DeLillo and we're here at the South Park Center and I'm here with Chrisann with her movie Turning Tables. Let's take a look at the clip.
How do I feel when I put it on? It reminds me of back when the native people were traveling in the bush and just visualizing how they were before the settlers came. How techno, or just techno in general, is quite new to this community.
Thank you so much for being here today and coming all the way from Toronto.
Yeah, it's really great to be here and have an actual downtown LA screening, so thank you for having me.
Oh, we couldn't do it without you. But for those that haven't seen your wonderful documentary, tell us a brief synopsis.
So, Turning Tables is a short documentary that follows Classic Roots, who's an indigenous techno DJ based in Toronto, who's pioneering powwow techno. So the film is an artist's short profile about his music, dance, and his work in First Nations communities.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's about how he's preparing to start the next chapter of his life in the world's techno capital, Berlin.
Yeah.
So.
He's so cool, isn't he?
Yeah, he is super infectious and his energy is just like out of this world.
I find him so cool, his music is so good, and then at the same time, what an inspiration he is just to, you know, just help and support his community. I thought that was just so, a beautiful added touch to someone that is, you know, doing already a fantastic job entertaining people, but just really giving back. I found that was beautiful. Before we get into that, where did the inspiration come for you in deciding I want to make this documentary?
Well, it started with Josh inviting me to see him perform live for the first time in Toronto. And at that point, this was back in 2016, and I had knew about his work as a DJ and that he was doing techno music, but I had no idea that he was also a powwow dancer. So when he invited me to this like grungy underground nightclub in Toronto, and he just came out donning his full fancy dance regalia, you know, that burst of color against the sound of the techno music. It was just like a surreal experience, and you know, there wasn't a soul that wasn't dancing in the club, and it was amazing to see just the way that he blended the music and the dance, and you know, the old and the new, you know, you can kind of call it that, and it worked in harmony so well. So audio visually, I was like, yeah, we need to do something. You know, it could be any kind of format, but like we just need to get this on camera. And then from a storytelling perspective, just also what he was doing in wearing the traditional regalia of his culture, celebrating that was just such a great message and positive message to anyone that's kind of like struggling between two worlds, two cultures, and to kind of prove that, you know, you can live in both spaces, you can thrive in both spaces. It meant a lot more to me than just visually what it looked like, and I thought we have to explore this further. So.
I mean, I love that, and just on film, it's captivating to watch him perform. Like, his music is so good. As I said, I downloaded it, Classic Roots, you gotta do it. I got it on iTunes. But he's just so great to watch, you know, and with all the colors and everything, it was just like, it was just beautiful. Obviously, that being said, he's obviously got a super talent, but, you know, when did you kind of find out that he was also a great role model as well for young people, which was just beautiful?
Sure, that came up maybe about 3 or 4 months after we started talking, and you know, he was doing a lot of shows in Toronto. That's where we were both based, and that was a lot of like the nightclub scene, and I got to see him, you know, on that grind as a musician trying to make it in Toronto. But there was a time that he was hired to do a show back in his hometown of Thunder Bay, and he said, why don't you come and like see what that's like? And that was for National Indigenous Peoples Day. And so I followed him, you know, with my dinky little camera. This was before funding came through. I was like, let's just see what's up. And he was like headlining this like this music festival there, and it was such a surreal experience because from when we hopped off the plane, there were people there waiting to like get his autograph.
It's like a celebrity, isn't he?
He was a hometown hero.
Yeah.
It was like a totally different world. And then at that festival, seeing him perform, there was a bunch of like, you know, little kids just gathering around, raving and coming up on the stage, and he was dancing with them. And that's when I thought, whoa, there's something else here. And he told me, he was like, yeah, you know, like I come back often. A lot of the kids here really look up to me. And since then, he's really taken it to the next level, and he's traveled more across Canada, visiting different First Nations communities. It's been great.
Because just watching that on camera, because you know, it was really amazing to watch him, and especially when he was on that particular day when he'd gone back home, gone back to his home, and just watching those young kids just look at him so inspired. Like, you know, when there's those moments when you're a child and someone inspires you to do whatever you want to do in your life, it was like you captured that on film. Yeah. That must have been very powerful to like look back on as a filmmaker, to see that, those reactions.
I'm so happy you brought that up, because there is that actual scene in the film when you see that little boy
yes.
by himself with the decks. That was like a transformative experience for me, because we literally did capture the moment of the seed of inspiration being planted. You could see, he doesn't say anything, but in that moment you could see that he's like, maybe this is something I could do later. And that's really the message that we're trying to get across with this film, that no matter what background you come from, whatever your circumstance, you can have whatever dream you want to have, and you can achieve it. So yeah, it always came down to that shot in the film, and it was also the inspiration behind my wanting to have an impact campaign following the documentary, which basically came from, I want this little boy to be able to watch the film once it's done, and I want to know what he thinks. So I spent the next year just trying to get funding for this impact campaign, which was a school and community tour around Ontario. And we just completed that a couple months ago, and we got to visit 5 communities and 8 schools in Northern Ontario, and we got to see that boy again.
You're kidding, that's amazing.
And he was there, and you know, I was just like so glued to him. I was like, what did you think? Kind of creepy, I guess.
No,
but
I love that.
He loved it, and you know, it really was a full circle moment.
I was going to say, it's a real full circle right there, isn't it? Oh wow, that's what I was also going to say as well. It was so beautifully shot. Obviously with the background of the classic root music as well, which was great, but it was so wonderfully shot, and I love the way that it was also edited as well. Tell us more about the cinematography and the editing, because you just captured those moments. I love the shots that you had of, like, you know, when he was dancing and it was going with the beat. It was just great.
Yeah. Sorry. So this was like my first short film that was like properly funded, and when it came time to, when I knew that I had this really great subject, and it came time to submit to grants, one of my mentors told me, you know, try and go for, as an emerging filmmaker, try to go for more experienced crew who can help you and guide you, and just by having their name on your application will get you so much further. So just through working with my mentor, I got access to John Tran, who was our cinematographer and is like one of Canada's top documentary cinematographers. So and I just worked with him once in passing, where I was an assistant on a set. But I just called him up, you know, and I was like, hey, this is the story, this is what it's about. You know, maybe you can check Classic Roots out, let me know what you think. And I really have to chalk it up to Josh, because once John looked up, you know, his music and what he does, he was like, this is a cinematographer's dream. I would love to shoot this. We could do so much with it. So having him on board, like right from the beginning, was really helpful, because it helped me also, like having his input helped me, you know, craft the scenes that we wanted to have. And you know, by the time it came to filming, it was such an amazing learning experience for me, because John was such a gentle mentor. You know, he knew all about anticipating shots and moments before they happened, and I think that's where we got a lot of the shots that we did that ended up being in the film.
So good to watch. Like it was lovely. It was lovely to watch, and I even loved the whole scenes in the subway. It was just beautiful. Really great. Now, obviously, you know, for anyone who doesn't know or hasn't made a documentary, it's hard work, and you know, you have to obviously have there's hours and hours of footage. So how long did the whole experience take you to shoot, and how much footage do you have to work through as well? Yeah,
so I'd say the whole process from like the inception of the idea I had to the doc to when we delivered the final version to the broadcaster was 1 year, literally January to December, and that's lucky.
Yeah, that's lucky.
I realize it's lucky, and we had very compact shoot days. I think we shot just 5 days in total.
Wow.
I know, it's surreal. But we had a lot of
goodness.
half days, and it was a big hustle for a lot of us.
Yeah.
But we did shoot a lot. We had a 2-camera shoot for everything. So there was a lot of footage to go through. But again, like I tell people, it's been such a mutually beneficial project for both Josh and I, because as we were editing, you know, he was doing more and more shows in Toronto, and we actually got commissioned by the Sony Center for Performing Arts to do a mini video of footage that didn't make the film, to just serve as like a background, you know, a background video for Classic Roots when he does like live performances.
That's amazing.
So there was a lot of other things to have come out of all the footage that we shot, including this new music video that we're working on now. And you know, it's good because there was so many beautiful shots and beautiful landscapes and scenes that didn't make it into the film.
Yeah.
But I'm glad there's a chance for us to still work with that.
Work with it. So, having made the documentary, what was his reaction to the doc like? Was he happy with it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was actually really funny because the first time I showed it to him, it was, you know, we were still editing, but we were close to a final cut, and I thought, okay, well, obviously this is so much about his life and a perspective. I want to get his input, and I want to know what he thinks about it all. And when he watched it, you know, the first thing he said to me, he was just like, wow, he's really cool. And I'm like, you mean you?
Yeah, right?
And he was like, yeah, I guess that's me. Like, I've never thought of, you know, myself in this way. And like, he was kind of starstruck by himself.
Yeah.
Which I think it's
a great
amazing.
testament to how modest he is
Yes,
as a person
definitely.
as well. The first thing I did after watching it, I literally downloaded it, and then I actually had a barbecue and had his music played. Everyone was like, oh, this is really cool. I was like, oh, it's a really cool doc. You got to meet this guy. What was it like to have your film at New Filmmakers LA in kind of an in-focus celebrating Canadian filmmakers and having the audience reaction? What was that whole experience like for you?
Oh, I think it was great. You know, I feel very honored and humbled to be among what New Filmmakers LA considers some of the best Canadian cinema of this time. And there's a lot of other amazing films, like including Alex Lazarowicz's Fast Horse. She's a close friend of mine. She really did help in a lot with getting Turning Tables off the ground. So it's amazing to see her work there too. And also the representation, you know, the fact that a bunch of the films in this month's showcase were directed by women, and, you know, women of color at that too. So it was really great to see the diversity kind of spread across, and being not only included but celebrated for that is really amazing.
And I kind of love to say that's every experience every single month at New Filmmakers, which is really, really nice. And it's nice to show you know, great Canadian filmmakers just, you know, really in full colors, and it was beautiful to see. What is next for you?
Oh, that very daunting question. Well, I've been working on Turning Tables this is the 3rd year actually.
Yeah.
So it had started as like a VR project, and then went to doc, and then we released a soundtrack. We went on a provincial tour, and now we have this music video that we're still working on.
Oh, great.
But we're hoping to launch it in September, and that came kind of as a result to a bunch of young people and students who were like just fascinated by Classic Roots, and I think they're his biggest fan base at the moment. So we thought, let's do something more for them. Let's make the documentary, but in an even shorter form, more accessible form. So it's this behind the scenes of the tour kind of a documentary music video. So that's going to be launched, we're hoping, sometime around the back to school time.
Oh, that's great.
So stay tuned.
Well, I want to see because he got to Berlin. I was like, no, I want more. Give me some more, please. I just love watching how you directed this documentary. I just was captivated by it, and I'm so glad that you chose this as your subject. For you as a filmmaker, is there anything that you go by in your life, some piece of advice maybe you've been told, or something that you can share that could, you know, inspire other filmmakers out there that want to follow in your footsteps?
when it comes to advice, like I have this book actually called "Tell Me Something: Documentary Filmmakers," and it's but it's like a collection of, you know, documentary filmmakers who just, what would they say to an emerging filmmaker? So I've been reading that religiously since I started making films, and it's funny because a lot of the advice is, don't take my advice, do your own, follow your own path, and I think that's great, and because, you know, especially with documentary storytelling, you have to have so much flexibility, and you have to be so open-minded and just willing to go with the flow that, you know, the only thing I would say maybe is to just believe in yourself and believe in your subject, and work in collaboration. I think the Turning Tables could not have been the film that it was if I didn't collaborate and I was not so open to just meeting all kinds of people. And I guess the other thing I would say, just in, you know, considering today's conversations around representation in media, is when embarking on a new story or idea, to ask yourself 2 questions, and that's why me and why now. And those were 2 questions that I definitely were asking myself, not just at the beginning when we started Turning Tables, but throughout the process, including, you know, when we had our premiere at Hot Docs. And I think by asking those questions to yourself, it humbles you, and also it helps you focus on the message that you're trying to get out there. And so, yeah, that's the advice that I would give.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you for giving us this film at New Filmmakers. We're so grateful. Thank you for coming from Toronto. Please keep making more things so we can see more of your films.
Thank you.
But we appreciate you, so thank you. Turning Tables, Chrisann. Thank you.